can't eat.
All right. There's something powerful about the journey of leadership, the daily steps, the long-term vision, and everything that we learn along the way. Welcome to Leadership Labs, where we explore these journeys with the incredible leaders of Aurora Public Schools. In each episode, we'll hear from those who are helping guide our district toward Destination APS, sharing their stories, their challenges, and the lessons they've learned along the way. Today, we have a very special guest, Lisa, principal of Rangeview High School. And Lisa was hard to lock in. Try to get her in one of the earlier episodes, and we had a plan ahead to get her here. So thank you so much for being here. Rangeview, of course, stands out as our highest performing large comprehensive high school. And what makes Lisa's story even more unique is that she herself is a proud Rangeview Raider, leading the school that she once walked as a student. The pictures are in the hallways to prove it. And so we're excited to dive into her leadership journey and perspective. So Lisa, thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is great.
Before we get into your high school leadership marathon, we'd just love to learn a little bit about you. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Awesome. Well, certainly I'm a product of the Aurora Public Schools, as are my three brothers. So yes, I graduated from Rangeview High School, and I had the opportunity to come back to Rangeview as a teacher, and then a dean of students and an assistant principal. And I was there for about 15 years doing that. And then I had an opportunity to be a principal at Murphy Creek P through 8. So I spent 10 years as the principal at Murphy Creek, and then had the only school I would have ever left Murphy Creek for to come back to was Rangeview High School. And so I had the opportunity to come back. And so this is closing up the sixth year of the principal at Rangeview High School.
Oh, that's fantastic. Tell us a little bit about Rangeview. What makes the Raider community so special? And it is. I love walking in there, and just the feeling that you get when you come in the front doors and you walk through the hallways and the just the lively student areas in the cafeteria. Of course, your basketball court was very popular this year. So yeah, what makes the Raider community so special?
I think it's, this is our 41st year at Rangeview being established. And I just think there's always been this culture of a concept of it's a family feel, that we try to provide lots of opportunities. You'll hear me talk about that throughout this podcast, that there's just lots of opportunities for kids to get involved and to really be a part of whatever they want to do at Rangeview High School. And if we don't have it, we're going to figure out how to offer it so that kids have a connection. And I think that's what you feel when you walk in there. There's definitely a sense of pride. We call it the Raider way. This is how we do things at Rangeview. And so come on in and join us and be a part of this really great mosaic of who we are.
Absolutely. We've had the chance to talk to leaders throughout APS elementary and K-8 middle. We talked to Kristen over at William Smith, which is high school also, but a little bit different than Rangeview. And so especially for those who haven't been the principal of a large comprehensive high school, give us an idea of what a typical day might look like for you at Rangeview.
I'm not sure that's a thing. A typical day.
That's the right answer.
That's right. Yeah. We certainly have, your standard, right? It's kind of cool. We greet every kid at the door. Part of that is a safety and security thing, but we actually do greet them and welcome them, and they have their IDs and they show us they belong, and everybody goes about their day. We have a 7-period day, and so everybody's doing different things, but man, it's just so cool to walk around and hear different things coming out of classrooms, whether it's discussions or the orchestra playing, or the squeaking of shoes on the tennis court, kids in the pool. It's just all those things that make a high school so cool. And then you throw in, like yesterday, we signed 15 athletes to college scholarships yesterday. So typical, I don't know, everybody goes to class. That's pretty consistent. But then throughout, the days and the weeks, there's fun things or different things like that we do to honor kids and our community.
Yeah, that's so amazing. We'll transition a little bit about to sort of we call the training ground with the labs. And every leader's journey, of course, has its training grounds, and there's not one straight path. Everybody's path's a little bit different.
Sure.
But tell us how you came to be a teacher. What drove you to this incredible career that we get to share?
Yep. I think I always knew I wanted to work with kids and youth in some way, shape, or form. And I actually went to college and started in criminal justice, and thought I would work in kind of youth corrections, and that was sort of my interest at the time. And the more I got into the coursework, the more I'm like, I really want to get these kids before they get in trouble.
Yeah.
Can I mentor, inspire kids to go a different route and maybe not end up in this place? And so throughout that journey, I shifted to teaching, and then majored in social studies, social science, secondary ed, and came into that realm of teaching through that. And again, I started as a long-term sub at here in Aurora at St. Therese Catholic School, K-8, and had this, and that was great. And it was middle school is middle school, and there's a place for it. I actually love middle schoolers, but man, I wanted to be at high school, and I wanted to coach, and I wanted to be a club sponsor along with all the teaching. And so when I had this amazing opportunity to interview at Rangeview, man, I jumped on it and got very lucky to end up back at my alma mater.
Yeah, that. Of course, we'll talk a little bit about the uniqueness of that, but you remind me when I was fresh out of high school, I knew I wanted to be a teacher, but I didn't quite know what level. I didn't know high school or middle or elementary. And I think that first semester out of high school, I was an avid tutor. And I had a similar thought from yours of, I want to get them before they're in trouble. But I initially went in there thinking I might want to be a high school teacher, and I thought I'm going to be an elementary guy. So yeah, completely shifted for me. But again, you have the unique experience of leading the very high school you attended. Tell us a little bit about your path or your experience at Rangeview as a student, and then also just what led you back to Rangeview.
Sure. I grew up in a K-8, so it was a really small school. And when I walked into Rangeview, I just knew a handful of kids who grew up in the little neighborhood with me. And so it really was just like I knew nobody when I walked in there. And I'll just never forget the feeling of staff at the time just being outgoing and helpful. They wanted you to get where you needed to be and do what you needed to do. And I had so many people who saw that I had an athletic ability. I was a basketball player, and it just drew me in, like, you're trying out, right? You're going out for the team. And so it was like these invitations to do things and to be involved. And so that had stuck with me, certainly. And I had such a great experience as a high school kid at Rangeview. And so I definitely knew I wanted that wherever I landed to offer those same sort of opportunities. And so when I got back to Rangeview, it's the ultimate buy-in. It's my heart. It's my love. My parents still live down the street. You can see the back of their house from the top of the school. And so my dad will sit on the back deck every once in a while and call me and be like, hey, someone ran into your fence down there on the soccer field. Yeah, Dad, I got it. We're working on it. And then 4 days later, it's fixed. Looks pretty good. So it's this community feel. Absolutely. And this buy-in. It's so I love it. And when I first got back to Rangeview, it was so funny. A lot of my teachers were still there. I'd only been gone, 5.5 years or so. And Mrs. Chin said, you can call me by my first name. And I thought, I don't know your first name. You're just Mrs. Chin. So Linda was amazing. So it was really fun going back and just being able to continue what I had experienced, and get involved with kids and give them lots of opportunities to do great things at the school.
I love that so much. And I will say too, I have mentors who, have poured into me over the years, and one of them always looks at me like, you could call me Ellen. I'm like, no, I can't. No, I can't.
That's right.
Thanks for saying that, but I can't. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Who were some of the key mentors who, shaped your journey, or whether as a student or as an early educator at Rangeview that might have influenced your approach?
Yeah, I think every basketball coach and softball coach I ever had were certainly as a kid an influence. But definitely Charlie Williams, who was my softball and basketball coach at the time, definitely saw something in me around that role of leadership. And so when you're on a team and you're able to take on leadership roles within a team, those were those first moments of, okay, I have some responsibility and I'm being charged with something and someone thinks I can do it. And, that just bolsters your confidence. And then in my leadership journey, I just, I give so much credit to the principal who was there at the time, who hired me, Mark Stein. I learned what to do and sometimes not what to do. Also, don't do that.
Yeah.
But I think anything is a learning deal. But he was just so crystal clear on what he wanted to do and how he wanted to do it and what Rangeview should become. And so I just learned an immense amount from him. I was talking to him actually just the other day, and I said, hey, I had to pull out one of your sayings as we started in January, which is kids are kids and the adults are in charge. Little things like that just sort of remember how to be at Rangeview and how to be in charge. So, and then I worked really closely with two principals later, Pam Turner, who just really brought me along as an assistant principal. And I got such a great perspective of what she was kind of dealing with. I don't want to say we ran the school together because that's not the case, but there were so many things that she allowed me to jump into and be a part of and learn from and walk through with her that just really shaped my understanding of what the role of the principal was. I don't think I ever thought I was going to be a principal. I wanted to be an athletic director and go that route. And but some things opened up and some things changed in my personal life that just allowed for that to happen. And so Mark Stein and Pam Turner, and both of them today, if I call them on the phone, man, they're quick to answer and just walk me through whatever.
Yeah, that's I feel like a recurring theme too of folks not knowing that they aspire to be, a principal, and they don't have, unless your name is Cozy Rodriguez, which is my son.
He's already there.
Yeah,
he's running school. Man.
He's already planning that.
That's great.
But we, for many of us that we become educators because we want to make a difference as a coach or as a teacher, and we want to have the kind of impact that educators had on us as when we were students. And we were just at a affinity group meeting last night, and I was reflecting, and for me, every step of the way in my journey as an educator, there was always somebody who said, hey, have you thought about getting your principal's license? Or, hey, you should apply to this opening, or you should throw your name in that, or getting a phone call like, hey, I got your name from so and so, that the even in the most subtle ways that mentors are pushing us along.
So. Absolutely.
I'm going to jump down to one of the leadership mile markers, because you just talked about your basketball coach, your softball coach, and so let's talk about a recent major achievement. The Rangeview Raiders Boys Basketball team had an incredible run, making it to the Final Four in the 6A playoffs. Cozy was able to come and cheer them on a couple times, and just the energy and rallying around the team. From your perspective as the principal, can you talk a little bit about that leadership ecosystem? Because you're considering your athletic director, your head coach, and then of course the students themselves who are leaders within the team. What contributes to that kind of success?
I would say consistency. So when I think about the course of the history of Rangeview there, including myself, have been 7 principals, only 5 ADs, and only 2 men's boys basketball head coaches.
Wow.
Aaron Taylor and Sean Palmer in 41 years.
Wow.
And so that consistency of
7 principals in 42 years,
5 ADs, and two head basketball coaches.
Okay.
So I think that consistency is humongous. We talk about high schools are full of rites, rituals, traditions, and I think that consistency of maintaining those levels of this is how we do things here. Sean has certainly built this wonderful feeder program over the years, and as success breeds success, and so kids and see that, and when they're young and they want to be part of that. And my athletic director well, I think he started it last year, the year before. We hooked up with Upswing and started this emerging leaders program and a captain's council across all our athletic teams. And so we really are focused on building leadership skills within our student athletes. And then how does that transfer not only to the classroom, but also onto the courts or the playing fields? And what does it mean to be a team? What does it mean to be a teammate? What does it mean to be a leader on a team? And how do you bring people along? And so that's, I think, been all great things that have sort of played into that. And there's, again, that family feel, the guys together, and that they're so tight knit and they're so tight together, and they've been playing forever together. And then when you hit the basketball court, it comes together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was amazing. I just got the chills remembering like, especially the grade 8 round, you know, and
my God.
yeah.
I finally got up, you know, I'm so superstitious. I'm like, okay, I can't sit here anymore because we're not doing very well. I got to move. And then I stood over by the student section. All of a sudden we started to come back and like, okay, now I can't move.
That's right.
That's me right now.
That's right.
But our students are just, gosh, our crowds, they're just, they're just awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It was incredible. It was, you know, as just a fan, as a spectator, it was just incredible to see. And yeah, you could see the leadership qualities in the students on the court. I mean, I remember one of the playoff games here at home at Rangeview. There were coaches from other teams who were already out of the playoffs with their students who were there, and like I could hear them, you know, did you see how he did this? Do you see how they're staying calm? You know, and so
there's no selfish play.
Yeah, they're there to learn from.
You got to be smart. Every play counts, but it's not so stressful.
Absolutely.
Like, you just got to know.
Yeah. Thank you for letting me pivot a little bit, but I do want to ask another question as you think about that highest performing large comprehensive high school. What do you attribute that sustained success to? I'll let you go.
Just the people. You know, I learned really early on in my leadership career that the magic happens in the classroom.
That's right.
And your teachers are your greatest asset. And so we strive to hire the best of the best. And I want to put the best of the best in front of my students. And if you're there, we want to make you as great as you can be, whatever that looks like, through coaching, through working with teammates, in your subject matter, PLCs, with whatever I can and my team, administrative team can pour into people. It really is about our staff. And I think my staff would tell you we spoil them a little bit, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because really, I want you to love being at Rangeview, and I want you to stay, because that, again, consistency just continues to move you forward. I think we have, at last counts, more than 20 staff members at Rangeview High School who graduated from Rangeview High School, and they come back because, again, they love it. Their experience was there, and how wonderful it is to be able to walk around the building and kids can come up to my, wrestling coach who graduated in the whatever 90s from there and be like, hey, and he knows it. He's experienced it. And yes, things have shifted and changed, and different kids are there, but it's the same. The heart of Rangeview is still there. And so it's really great to have the people who make it what it is.
Lisa, I'm going to ask you a tough question because I know you have so many things to be proud of just from the last week.
I know.
What's your proudest moment so far from your time leading Rangeview?
Right. I don't know if I have one. That's what's hard. So
that's right.
I don't have one. Not just one. You're right. This is, I think just in general, when I was at Rangeview, my first stint, I call it first stint at Rangeview, and then my second, we hooked up with the Anti-Defamation League, and they were really pushing their commitment to education in buildings and schools. And so under the No Place for Hate Coalition, we joined that. And I think this is our, 17th year of being a No Place for Hate school. I think we're one of the only high schools, there might be one in Cherry Creek, that has continued to work with ADL. And so I just am proud of the fact that it's sort of the umbrella that lies over everything that, yes, kids make everybody does. You make a bad decision. It's what you do with it afterwards. Are you learning from it, or are you continuing down a different road? But this umbrella of No Place for Hate, and that we don't want hateful behaviors at Rangeview, and that we try to get kids to understand that was hateful. What are we going to do about it moving forward? So I'm proud of that. And of course, you're right. This whole this whole part of the year is awesome because we're just moving into all these award ceremonies and honoring kids, and it's exhausting and it's so much fun, and it culminates with graduation day. How's that the best day of every year when almost 500 kids walk across the stage and get a diploma?
2.5 weeks out.
I know, we're close.
We're so close.
Yeah. And so that's the best.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Is there a leadership lesson that you find yourself coming back to?
I do. I'll never forget. I think I was a young teacher, and I was asked to sit on an interview committee for a custodian. We were hiring custodians before it was kind of taken over by the district. We hired them individually in our schools, and so it was this little team, and I was like, yeah, I'll do that. That sounds amazing. And so I'm sitting there, and this young kid is interviewing for a job, and we had a custodian at that time named Joe Saunders, and he was just this awesome guy. He'd been at Rangeview for a while and had been a custodian for a long time, and he's on the team, and man, this kid's struggling. And the question came up, something around how this person would see their role as a custodian in the building, and man, this kid was struggling, and Joe had had about enough. And I remember him leaning forward in his chair, and he looked at the kiddo and he said, son, you're not getting it. You don't understand what you need to understand, which is every single person in this building is part of the success of every single kid who walks out the door. And he said, it doesn't matter if you're the principal, if you're the custodian, if you're working in the kitchen, if you're the English teacher, if you're the coach who comes in from whatever, every single person in this building is part of a unit that helps every kid walk out the door ready to do what they need to do. And if you don't understand that as a custodian, you help educate kids, then this is not the job for you. And I just remember sitting there going, oh, and that has stuck with me my entire life, because that is what it is, right? And I think that's part of what Rangeview is about too. Every single person there is working in the same direction to just be awesome for kids so that they can be awesome.
Oh, that's incredible. I love that. That's we talk about that as we think about the new strategic plan, right? That we're on the precipice of rolling out, and we as we think about the entire school district, want to see every single person who works in APS to see themselves in the strategic plan. So that's oh wow, I love
that. Good old Joe.
Good old Joe. We're gonna switch to a little bit of a lighter part of the pod called the leadership playlist.
Okay.
And so we know, leaders need fuel for the journey. Would love to learn a little bit about what keeps you motivated. And then also if there are any, leadership books that you might recommend to a leader out there.
Yeah. Well, motivation, I don't know. How do you not just wake up every day? I do wake up every day, and I can't think of a day I've woken up and been like, oh man, I mean, we're tired and whatever, but it's not this dread. I mean, and every day is different when you're to school. It's never the same, right? Sometimes I open my door and I go next, and you just don't know what's going to hit you. So that in of itself just keeps it fresh for sure, right? And so the joy of just being around kids, and when I do start to feel kind of whatever, and you start to get down, you just got to go and be with high school kids. You got to go somewhere where they're at and just be with them, and they're just awesome. So that's my motivation. Leadership book. Well, I've always loved Todd Whitaker and two of his books, right? They're very similar. What great teachers do differently and what great principals do differently. And what I love about his stuff is it's just common sense to some extent, and it's practical, and it's not. It's definitely steeped in research, but the way he presents it, it's just so easy to be like, oh yeah. And a lot of times you read it and it's just a reminder. Oh yeah, I remember that. Don't forget it, right? And so I love always going back to his stuff and his work.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And what's playing in your leadership headphones? So what are you listening to? What music? Any artists, genres, a song?
I listen to all kinds of stuff. My daughter is only in her second year of teaching. She's doing elementary theater down in Colorado Springs, and so she's a big musical theater person. So whenever she's around, there's Wicked or something playing. There's always musical theater happening somewhere around me. And I've recently gotten back into lifting weights, which I loved to do when I was an athlete. And so the gentleman in the gym I go to, he's big into 1980s big dog, hopping rock, pumping out music. So that's always in my head. And I'm a kid of the 80s, growing up. So you got to love that.
That's right. All right. Lightning round, Destination APS.
Yeah.
What does Destination APS mean to you and the Rangeview High School community?
Yeah, I think it's kind of what you just talked about is how, like people, I feel like people want to be at Rangeview High School. I mean, if you graduated from Rangeview and you're coming back to work there, you want to be there. So when I think of Destination APS, it's that same thing. What is happening in Aurora Public Schools that people are like, I want to be a part of that. There's something there or somewhere within that bigger structure that I want to be a part of that, to just continue to work with kids and help them be awesome. And so when I think of Destination APS, that's what I think of is that people will start to hear and see that there's really cool stuff happening in Aurora Public Schools and in our schools. And I just really need to be a part of that.
Absolutely.
So that's what it means to me.
Yeah. When you were talking about that earlier of, you've got 20 folks who are alum, who, again, the consistency of two head coaches, 7 principals, 1 voice of Rangeview for your basketball games.
Rich.
That people choose to come to Rangeview and stay for long times. And so
you want to be a part of things that are happening that are good, right, and that are successful and fun. And so that's right. That's what we need to get APS in the whole district rocking.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. What excites you the most about the future of Rangeview?
It was so crazy. I was, we passed the bond in the mill. So thank you, voters. That's fantastic. Right. And I'm super excited about the CTE possibilities at Rangeview. And so just even starting some of those conversations about, gosh, if we could have a welding program or an auto program or something right there on Rangeview. And then how do we share that across all of the high schools? So if you want to go to culinary arts, there's some seats at Gateway High School for Rangeview kids to go there and be a part of that. Or if I have welding, how do I get some, and just how do we continue to grow our students? So the CTE thing to me is just fascinating. And I'm pretty excited about having some of the dollars to be able to really develop that out and to have kids walk out with credentials and certificates that they can just go right into the workforce if that's what they choose to do. Yeah.
I think this is my last question for you, Lisa, is what advice would you give to educators who are aspiring to leadership roles, maybe even someone out there who's dreaming of leading their own alma mater or one day a large comprehensive high school?
Yeah. I would say, find your people. And tap into them and don't be afraid to ask questions. A lot of times, the principalship especially, right? People say it's lonely. I don't know that that's the word I would use, but sometimes it's hard to really relate because of what you are really dealing with. And so find those people that when you call, they will pick up the phone. And if it's just to talk you off the edge or bounce ideas off of or to share something awesome. And, there's so many people in this district that I pick up the phone and, Lori Peterson and Jen over Hinckley will answer the phone and, and there's just people you pick up and you call and don't be afraid to ask the question that you need answered to keep you moving forward. And so it's not, I always say, I tell it'll be in my speech at graduation on the 19th. Asking questions just doesn't show that you're weak. It shows that you are strong and that you have something there that you need to have answered so you can move forward.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's sound advice, both for aspiring leaders and current leaders, and a good reminder for all of us. So I appreciate you, Lisa.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey with us. It's truly inspiring to hear from someone leading with such deep roots in the community. Your insights about fostering excellence, navigating leadership from the principal's office down to our student leaders, especially in light of the team success, but overall in general, is really incredible and invaluable. So thank you for making the time for this. Greatly appreciated. The folks who are still listening to the Leadership Labs podcast, thank you for joining us, and join us next time as we continue exploring the paths of those who are guiding us toward Destination APS like Lisa. Until then, keep running your race with purpose. Thank you so much.